Okay, welcome to Math Foundations for Healthcare Lecture 3. I'm going to be splitting this lecture into two parts. The videos should be roughly half as long as a normal lecture should be, and there will be two of them. Okay, and I'm just breaking them up so that way the two different parts that we're talking about, you can easily go back and watch them rather than having to search for where does the decimal numbers portion start. Okay, so part one is going to be on fraction operations. So we're looking at multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. And there's a reason that I'm putting them in that order, because that's the easiest way to learn them. Okay, and then in part two, we'll look at decimal numbers. So we'll start by just understanding how fractional place values work. Then we'll look at rounding in general. And then we'll deal with operations with decimal numbers. So operations meaning adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. All right, so let's get started. We're going to start with fractions and multiplication. Okay, so multiplying fractions is pretty much the simplest thing to do with fractions. Okay, it is beautifully simple. There is not much that you have to remember. To multiply fractions is just to multiply the numerator times the numerator and the denominator times the denominator. So to multiply 3/4 by 5/7, we multiply 3 times 5 and get 15. And we multiply 4 times 7 and get 28. So 3/4 times 5/7 is 15/28. All right, it's that simple. All right, this is one of those things where so often with fractions, you're taught how to add fractions first and then get this awful feeling about fractions, and then forget how beautiful multiplying fractions is. Multiplying fractions is easy. So there we have it. Okay, we'll try another example. All right, so here's another example. We have 3/4 again, but this time we're multiplying by 2/9. So if we follow what we did before, we have 3 times 2, and that's 6. And now we have 4 times 9. Okay, 4 times 9, so that's 36. Okay, and hopefully you recognize, hey, 6 goes into both of these numbers, and so there's a cancellation to get this into lowest terms. 6 goes into itself once and into 36 6 times, so we're left with 1/6. Okay, so that is one way to solve this problem. There's another way that's a little bit quicker. Okay, so I'm going to set this up again. 3/4 times 2/9. All right, now on a test, right, I am looking for, do you get the right answer? So the way that we have here is fine, okay, but it's not the fastest way. So this is a better way that I'm going to show you. It's still it's equal to this way in, you know, how many marks you get, but this way you get the marks faster and you get to work on the harder problems for longer, which is ideal, right? And, you know, if you're in an actual real life situation, you want to get the work done quickly, the math done quickly, so that you can inject the patient with whatever drugs they need or whatever it is that you're doing, right? Okay, so here we go. What we can do now is we can cancel out first, right? Here we did the multiplication and then we canceled out. Here we're going to cancel out before we do the multiplication. So what we can do is say, hey, there's a factor of 2 that goes into 4 and into 2. So I can cancel out the 2 and that leaves me with 1 because I'm dividing by 2, and cancel out the 4 and that leaves me with 2 because what I did is I divided by 2 here and divided by 2 here. Okay, and once again, there's a factor of 3 that goes into both 3 and 9. So this turns into a 1, and this 9 turns into a 3, right? Because I'm dividing the 3 by 3 to get 1 and dividing 9 by 3 to get 3. So there we go. And now what I've got is 1 times 1 is 1, and 2 times 3 is 6. And so that gets me my answer with less writing. So there we have it. So this is a quicker way of solving this sort of a problem. Okay, and I recommend that you put this into practice. Okay, all right. We'll do one more example of multiplying fractions, and then we'll get on to division. So here we go. Okay, let's try this now. We have a mixed fraction involved here, a mixed number. So when you're going to multiply with a mixed number, the first thing you want to do is not have a mixed number. You want to translate that into into an improper fraction. That's what we want to do. So here we go. So to translate this into an improper fraction, I'm going to have 35 35ths, that's what 1 is, right? 35 35ths plus 13 35ths. So let's just write that quickly over here. 35 plus 13. 5 plus 3 is 8. 3 plus 1 is 4. So we have 48 35ths. Okay, cool. So now we can do the multiplication, and we're going to look and see, all right, is there any cancellations I can do beforehand? Sometimes there isn't, so if there isn't, then that's okay, just do the multiplication. In this case, there is. Let's see, I know 8 goes into both 48 and 64. 8 goes into 48 6 times. And into 64 8 times. Oh, but I just realized that wasn't enough. I could have actually gone with 16, because 2 goes into 6 and 8, so I can cancel it again. So say 3 and 4. So we've got a 3 and a 4 up there. Okay, now what about 21 and 35? Are there any numbers that go into both of those? Well, I know that 21 is 3 times 7. Does 7, well, 3 doesn't go into 35. If you add the numbers together, it's not a multiple of 3. So it's not going to be 3. But does 7 go into 35? Yes, because 35 is 5 times 7. So I can factor out a 7 from both of these. So dividing 21 by 7 leaves me with 3, and dividing 35 by 7 leaves me with 5. So now I've reduced this down, and what I have is 3 times 3, which is 9, and 4 times 5, which is 20. So 21 over 64 times 1 and 13 35ths ends up being 9 20ths. Okay, so that's about as complicated as it can get with multiplying by fractions. So remember, the important thing here is if you have a mixed number, you want to convert it to an improper fraction in order to do the multiplication. Okay, so always convert to improper fractions for multiplication. Okay, and that's multiplication done. We've just finished multiplication. Now we're on to division.